Ladies and gentlemen, the FBI is running an internal investigation on Crossfire Hurricane. So, this is Fox News. The revelations came during the trial of Michael Sussman, who was accused of lying to the Bureau during the 2016 presidential campaign. Federal Bureau of Investigation running internal investigation into its own Trump probe, Crossfire Hurricane. That's interesting. What does this mean? We'll talk about it. The FBI is conducting an internal investigation into the Bureau's Trump investigation, also known as Crossfire Hurricane. The news of the internal review came during testimony of a special agent Tuesday during the trial of Michael Sussman. The first trial, the special counsel John Durham's year-long investigation into the origins of why they investigated Trump in the first place. The special agent confirmed during testimony that he is being investigated for withholding potentially exculpatory information in a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrant. Wow. Application to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. Wow. The special agent said Tuesday that the exculpatory information in question was a recording from one of the subjects. They withheld a recording. Wow. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Exculpatory information that could exonerate or prove someone's innocence. Exculpatory information in the form of a recording. Gee, why do you think an agent now being investigated withheld a recording? Well, let's just continue. Fox News first reported in 2019 that Durham's review was zeroing in on transcripts of recordings made by at least one confidential human source at the Bureau who met with Trump campaign aide George Papadopoulos. Wow. Overseas in 2016, specifically looking at why exculpatory material was not present in the subsequent application for the FISA warrants against Page. The reason it wasn't present, and the reason that you have Kevin Kleinsmith, the Bureau attorney, indicted and pleading guilty to withholding information from a judge. And the reason you have this special agent being investigated for withholding a recording that could have exonerated George Papadopoulos and Carter Page before they had to deal with everything they dealt with. The reason you have all of this information and evidence being withheld is because 18 U.S. Code 371, that's the statute. These people conspired against Trump, and they did so by deception, by withholding exculpatory information, by allowing meetings with Clinton operatives, by utilizing the Steele dossier and other absurd allegations to be funneled into the U.S. government and to have those allegations investigated. Meanwhile, 0 allegations are investigated by the U.S. government against Democrats unless they're so absurd in terms of the criminality, so profound that they have to investigate Hunter's hundreds of millions of dollars in business deals overseas with shady, despicable characters. I mean, with Clinton, they had to with top secret intelligence on private servers. They didn't want to, but they had to. There was just no way out of it. And so with Trump, it could be Jim Jordan or Matt Gaetz, or they're investigating. We're investigating them. Or any Democrats, George Papadopoulos, he wasn't, or any Republican, George Papadopoulos, Carter Page, Michael Flynn, any congressman that Democrats don't like, we're investigating them. There was never an attempt by Trump to work with a foreign country to be installed into the U.S. government, nor did that foreign country interfere. There was not one example of interference. The DNC emails is not an example of interference. Well, it is in terms of Democrats interfering with their own process. They cheated Bernie Sanders and then blamed another country for letting you know about it. Hit subscribe, by the way, to this channel. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. We see what's taking place. Look at the carnage now in the NASDAQ. I told you everything would tank. And you can read it. You can look in the description. I said everything that was going to take place. And please go ahead and subscribe to the Bitcoin Crash to 10,000 or lower channel. I have 3 channels now, ladies and gentlemen. And essentially, I don't have a sponsor yet or sponsors, but I could be looking into that once we get over 200,000 subs. But essentially, you're sponsoring, or this channel is being sponsored by the two other channels that I'm building and growing. I mean, one is not even monetized yet, but the Bitcoin crashed to 10,000 or lower. But I am investing in myself and in my audience, building those two other channels. So please subscribe to them. It's the Stock Market Crash channel and the Bitcoin Crash to 10,000 or lower channel. They're in the pinned comments. If you want to support my work, my Patreon is below. And ladies and gentlemen, please become a member. Share these segments everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. This is huge. So, the transcript, however, is more than 4 hours long between Papadopoulos and a confidential source. Maybe Joseph Mifsud. Well, actually, Papadopoulos, I believe, in his book, he has a great book. You should read it. It's really good. Or his interviews has explained what took place. According to the obtained transcripts, the human resource met with Papadopoulos and asked whether he thought the Kremlin hacked the DNC ahead of the Democratic National Convention. No, George Papadopoulos replied. So there you go. When asked when he thought the Kremlin had special interests in 2016, Papadopoulos said, no, that's all baloney. He'd use a different word. No one knows who's hacking them. And added, it could be the Chinese or the Iranians, or it could be some Bernie supporters. It could be anonymous. My God! So the recording of the recording that exonerated Papadopoulos. This is the difference between when they're so proud of the Mueller probe indictments and the Sussman indictment. The Sussman indictment has to do with setting up and framing Trump. Literally none of the Mueller probe indictments have to do with Trump working with the Kremlin or the Kremlin interfering in 2016. There was no interference. Not one Facebook ad or Twitter bot swung anyone's decision. This is a scapegoat. It's an obvious propaganda spin because they can't possibly look in the mirror. They can't possibly look and say, wow, we lost to Trump. So they needed some kind of security blanket or some kind of scapegoat or some kind of way to, they were so mortified, they needed some way to say, okay, we didn't really lose to Donald Trump. What happened was it was another country. So the ODNI and DHS reports come out. They say we're highly confident that this all happened, highly to moderately confident. But they never had any evidence, ever, not one shred of evidence, other than hysteria and suspicion. And by the way, you're not allowed to have these emotions when it comes to Democrats. Can't be suspicious of Hunter or mashed potato brains our president. Or Clinton, God forbid. The money from uranium, you can't prove anything. 20% of U.S. uranium capacity, oh well. Owned by you-know-who now, or back then. No one knows how a president's going to govern anyway. You just don't say, oh, hold on. He said before being I don't know. Even it's all like conspiratorial theories. So there you go. He basically, the source went on to press Papadopoulos. I feel like there's some heavy Trump supporters out there that kind of want this in favor at the same time. I don't know. It's like unbelievable. They're trying to get. He's leading. You have this informant, or it could be Mifsud or somebody. Speaking of Papadopoulos, and I'm sure Papadopoulos has spoken about this. It's in his book, and he's spoken about this in interviews. But for some reason it eludes me who this person was. I think it's either Alexander Downer or Mifsud. Could be Joseph Mifsud, who, by the way, retracted what he claimed to the Bureau and also lied to the Bureau according to the Mueller probe. The comments were made by Papadopoulos were noteworthy because, according to officials, they never provided or included evidence to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court when seeking to renew warrants. Wow. So these people, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So now there's an internal review. This is huge, huge, huge news, ladies and gentlemen. There's basically a Durham probe within the FBI, but the thing is, it could very well be the Bureau finding out everything it did that was illegal or unlawful ahead of the Durham Probe Special Counsel's attempt at 18 U.S. Code 371, trying to get ahead of any attempt at basically finding out how corrupt they were. Give me your thoughts below. Share this segment everywhere. Huge, huge news. Huge news.